Morning Show on East Coast FM.
The Morning Show
With Declan Meehan. East Coast FM.
Now, it is the morning show at East Coast FM, and we're going to talk to renowned Irish singer and storyteller Helena Byrne, and she's coming to the stage at the Mermaid Arts Centre for what we're told is an enchanting evening of stories and songs. And to tell us more about it and not be modest at all is Helena. Hi, Helena.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Not at all. Thanks very much for having me. Much appreciated.
So when is the date?
The date is March 11th, a Saturday night. So I'm looking forward to it now. It's only a few weeks down the road and getting all prepped for it. And like you mentioned, it's an evening of story and song. I've been performing as a seanchaí, as a storyteller for, actually I'm starting to lose count. It's 10 plus years anyway. So
10 is good for rock and roll.
Yeah, we'll round it up to 10. And most of the stories that I tell would be sort of in the realm of Irish folklore. I love telling stories about the banshee. It's funny that we've been talking about the banshees of Inisheer and so much this
which were songs, I think, in the story.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I'll be telling stories about the banshee and the puka, all those kind of stories that people grew up with, hearing about the fairies, and not to interfere with fairy fort.
And do you tell them as Gaeilge or as Béarla or what?
As Béarla. I tell them in English.
Yes.
Yeah. So so everybody then, anyone who is maybe not from Ireland
can
living
embrace
in Bray
them as well.
Can embrace them as well and learn a little bit of Irish folklore. And as you mentioned, I'm a singer as well, so I'll be throwing in a few old songs and hopefully getting everybody to join in.
And where have you gathered all the stories? You know the supernatural ones as well as the
everywhere
folk
and
songs.
anywhere. Some of the stories, of course, I would have researched, and the Dukas website. That's a great resource. It has the school collection from the 1930s, I think, when school children were told to gather stories from their neighbours and grandparents and that. That's fantastic. But what I particularly enjoy doing is just sitting down and speaking with people and getting their stories, and even people who would be very modest and say, I don't really have any stories, and then a cup of tea in, and suddenly all these stories come to mind that they remember. So that really, it's just travelling around the country and speaking to people and getting to share their stories. That's how I do it.
Right. And how did you come to this? Where are you from and how did you start?
Stumbled into it. I'm from Ballyhale, actually, in Kilkenny originally. Shout out to the Ballyhale Shamrocks. That has to be done, I suppose.
We're fed up listening to them. Can anybody beat them at all?
I know.
You wouldn't want to. Okay.
But yeah, no, I was not a camogie player or hurling player of any description. I loved just performing. And when I moved to Dublin, there again 10 plus years ago, whatever it was, I started working as a tour guide. And I would throw in stories here and there, and just found that I loved it. Because with storytelling, it's very different from being on the stage performing a play or something. It's there's a real sort of relationship between you and the audience. You can really, you're telling a scary story about a ghost or a poltergeist or something like that, and you're looking right into people's eyes, and you can see, I've got them in the palm of my hands now.
Well,
so
you have a good delivery for stories.
Oh,
yeah, even the story of yourself is in there. And I mean, you deliver the stories, but you seem to get involved in the stories. And
yes,
it doesn't matter how many times you tell it. No,
because every time is different. Every time is different, and every audience is different, and that's, I suppose, what you have to remember as a performer, whether it's storytelling or acting or singing. I suppose you've got to remember that each audience, this is the first time they've heard this, and treat it that way every time. And yeah, I suppose I found when I first started storytelling, I was a resident storyteller in the Brazen Head for a show that was running there for a number of years, and all the other storytellers were men in their 50s and 60s, and I was trying to tell the same stories that they were telling, and I was kind of thinking, God, why is this joke that works for a 60-year-old man, why is that not landing for me? So I had to change it up and sort of find the stories that I'm passionate about. And if the storyteller is excited about a story, the audience will get excited too. That's my story. And
it's amazing that,
it.
say, the banshee, for example, is so enduring. That
Absolutely. And the banshee is one that, I would come across a lot of Irish people who say, sure, listen, that's, the fairies and all that, it's all in the past. But then you mention the banshee and
they say,
their posture
I
changes.
heard the banshee just before so-and-so had passed away.
That's the thing. There's so many stories about like that, people say, sure, listen, I know it is all rubbish, but my mother heard the banshee. So it's sort of a dismissive, but taking it very seriously at the same time, So, yeah.
Right. So what can we expect on the night then? March the 11th.
Yes,
a Saturday.
That's right. March the 11th is Saturday night, and I'll be sharing some of these fairy stories, also some stories from the area as well. So last year I would have researched a lot of stories about the dance halls in Bray, the very famous dance hall that was right there at the Dart station. The name of it now won't come to me, of course. You'd probably know it yourself, would you?
I did a second ago, but it's
of course, when you want to think of it, I'm sure people will be texting in now with the name of it. Stories of people, meeting their husbands and their wives and growing up in Bray and in Shank Hill. Some fantastic stories from there. So I'll be sharing a few of those, and then singing as well. So I'll be singing a few of those sort of songs that really they tend to bring people back. There's I don't know how many of your listeners would know Delia Murphy.
She goes back a bit now.
A fair bit back, that's right, yeah. There's a few of her songs that I love singing because, like that, a lot of people, they would say to me, God, I remember my grandfather used to sing that song and my grandmother used to sing this, that and the other. And so I love those sort of songs that really bring people back to sitting at the fireside, really. So yeah, that's what we'll be doing on the night.
It sounds like a homely night.
I think so. And I think everybody should come.
Yes, well, very good. Well, the best of luck with that, Helena. I mean, it sounds a great night. It sounds like an atmospheric night of,
that's
fairies and pukas and banshees and nice music.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll draw them all in with the scary stories and then send them on their merry way after a few nice songs. So hopefully people will be able to sleep that night. Well,
listen, great to meet you.
You too. Thank you so much for having me.
Keep in touch. It'd be nice to have a chat again.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So we're heading for the St. Patrick's weekend when you're doing that.
Yeah.
So
and I must mention, if you don't mind, I have to mention that it's my nephew John in Ballyhale. It's his 4th birthday today. So I just had to mention that, or I'd be the worst auntie in the world if I didn't say that.
Was he born with a hurley in his hand? Or?
He was not, but there's still time.
Very good. Helena Byrne, thanks very much indeed, Helena.
Thank you.
Good morning.
The new VHI 360 Health Centre Carrick Mines gives our healthcare members access to